Alrighty. Welcome to Cat Space. I'd like to introduce Leon Murray. Leon is an amazing voiceover artist with 18 plus years experience in the industry in commercial, corporate, including live broadcasting on TV and radio. You may have heard Leon as the voice of Big Brother Australia and many other commercials such as Dream World Australia, Eager Boys Pizza, and of course his podcast with Dan and Leon. Thank you for joining me today. I have a few questions to ask. Now, my first one is, how did you become a voiceover artist to begin with?
Well, Kat, this is certainly a turnaround for me, getting asked the questions instead of asking them. You make me sound pretty good there, Kat. I'm very flattered. Thanks for having me on. Yes, of course, that was a little bit of Big Brother at the start, but that's not really me. I mean, I am just a dude. I am just Leon. I'm a guy who's now, I find myself in my 40s, but I started this game back in my early 20s, so coming up on 20 years ago now. And I guess I was always just super interested in voices when I was even a kid. Like I remember other kids, would love cartoons or the Muppets, but I was super fascinated by who was operating the Muppets. Like who was Jim Henson and who was Frank Oz and who was Mel Blanc from Warner Brothers? Who are these people? And so just, I don't know why, but super early on, the voice thing just absolutely kind of electrified me. And then um, I kind of had put it off as a bit of a dream, and I was doing a very sensible fallback career, which was film and television. And then working on Big Brother very early on was when I met the voiceover narrator on Big Brother, Mike Goldman. And he just encouraged, he was my first voice mentor, really. Like we got to chatting, and pretty much straight away, he goes, "Hey, man, you got a good voice. You should do voiceovers." Pretty much word for word, that's what he said. And I guess I haven't looked back since. I just asked him advice about how to put demos together. And then I had another really good mentor at a Brisbane radio station. He's a creative writer named Jeff Esdale. So between Mike and Jeff, I had two amazing mentors. And I think they just kind of showed me that it was possible. And so I kind of started the ball rolling, and it hasn't stopped since then. So I feel very lucky that I guess I've got the right kind of brain and the right kind of voice to sort of do the job, because it's really unusual. But I enjoy everything about it. So yeah, strange career choice, but so far so good.
That is so awesome. Now, tell me, you were on Nova. So tell us more about your time on Nova.
Yeah, Nova was fantastic. Maybe probably equal tied first place for best gig I've ever had alongside Big Brother. Nova came about because I was still sort of in my 20s as this voiceover dude, but kind of had some time on my hands. VO is not really a full-time freelance career. And I was kicking around doing different media jobs and a bit of TV and a little bit of presenting sort of on a community television station. And then I was working part time at Nova as well, and just doing casual stuff, the kind of things you do in your 20s, driving the radio vans around, giving out prizes, and sort of doing occasional crosses back to the radio station, things like that. But I was lucky with a buddy of mine, Dan Anstey, to we just clicked. We'd met at the community TV station, and then we were doing stuff together and making little videos. And then those videos actually got a bit of attention. We applied for a couple of jobs, one at ABC and one at Channel 7. And then those audition videos actually made it onto the project, which was just starting up back then. This is about sort of 2009. So we started getting work on the project together, and then I think it all kind of happened at once because Nova realized they were probably onto something a bit good with Dan and I together. So we started just doing a fill-in, like we did a literally half-hour show once a week in Brisbane, like a local half-hour show, and that went to a weekend breakfast show, and then it finally ended up that we got our own late night national show. So Dan and Leon was on Nova 10 to 1 every night, 5 nights a week, all across the country. And yeah, that was an amazing opportunity. And it meant that we could, it was bizarre because we had full creative freedom, but we were almost completely unchecked. Like there wasn't the pressure of doing a national drive show or doing a local big capital city breakfast show. We were just the late night guys, and we did whatever we wanted. And yeah, incredible gig. I still miss it.
Well, Leon, here's one for you. What was it like becoming the voice of This Is Big Brother?
You mean this is Big Brother? Yeah, that was quite surreal. I'd already done about 5 seasons of Big Brother in post-production. I'd actually trained as an editor. That was my major with my Bachelor of Screen Production. So I'd worked in post, and it was a very happy confluence of the fact that I knew the show, I had the right mind, I had the right sense of humor, and I also had the right voice for the job. And I think um, it wasn't easy, and it didn't start. It didn't just all click straight away. And in fact, if you go back and listen to some of those very first shows I did, which was the 2008 season, it doesn't really sound like Big Brother at all. And you can hear with my normal speaking voice, it's pretty light and up there and quite chipper. And you wouldn't expect that if I just lower my voice as much as I can down to this sort of register, then suddenly things get a lot more serious. And it is literally something I can just put on like an old slipper now, like a comfy old shoe. But it took like 4 seasons, and I think probably aging a little bit too, to actually develop into that. Because when I got the job, I was barely 28, and I took that up through to the final season on Channel 9, which was the end of 2014. So it was, yeah, I was just very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. And the people who I'd gotten to know over the previous seasons had suddenly all worked, they'd worked their asses off and they'd been promoted, and they were suddenly in pretty good positions of power on that series. So they were essentially able to go, you know what, Leon would be great. And they threw me a bone, and fortunately nothing went hugely wrong. And everything, yeah, I think I was really proud of what we managed to achieve together, because we took that character and we took it into a new space. And I think that's, his sound, his approach, his satire, his sense of humor. I, yeah, like I said, equal tie greatest gig I've ever had. So yeah, I was very, very lucky.
Well, you're an out, you're a huge, you know, legend for many of us, watching you, listening to you. You're also a podcaster. You do a show with Dan as well. What inspired you to actually get started in podcasting?
Well, it's this podcast this year, and thanks for listening, by the way. It's called Dig That Up, so you can find it on all the platforms, amongst the billion other podcasts now available. It's kind of our third bite of the cherry, because when we had a radio show, we would put the best bits together, and we podcasted that, and that was sort of pretty early days of podcasting, really, when I think back on it. And then we had another show a couple of years ago, which was sort of ill-timed, because I'd just had it. We just had our third son, so I did not have a lot of free time. But this time around, last year, 2020 was the year of the podcast, wasn't it? Everyone started one, and we just missed each other. Honestly, we just missed. Dan, as I mentioned before, we'd met 15 years ago, hosted community TV together, ended up on the project, ended up in national radio. We've got too much chemistry to let that slide, and he's working in breakfast radio on the Gold Coast. He's doing a breakfast show 5 days a week, but I'm not. So I don't get to work with him. I miss the camaraderie. We don't get to connect the way that we used to. So we thought, why not just do this ourselves? And so that's how Dig That Up was born. And we're pretty excited about the format, because it's really just current affairs, comedy chat. But we've also got Digby, our kind of producing shit kicker, alongside us. So Digby's pretty well named, because Digby will dig that up. If we have any questions, if we're curious, if we don't know the answer, if we can't figure something out, Digby will dig that up, and we can get to the bottom of whatever's taking place in the world. Um, so it's, yeah, the personal answer is we get together and talk shit and make each other laugh and have fun. And the kind of semi-professional answer is that we get to actually broadcast together again, because now anyone's a broadcaster.
Yes, especially for someone like myself who's, in the process of learning that, and getting to know that section of, that pretty well. I just wanted to lastly ask you, with each voiceover that you do, obviously besides Big Brother, what is the process of all the voiceovers to like? What is the process to get it right?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's the answer is really it just every job is different. And so there's an overall skill, which is that simple things like turn up on time, be professional, have good diction, be able to sight read copy, know the difference between 29 seconds and 31 seconds. But then individually, every answer is different because every job is different. And so it will depend on the client, on the copy, what kind of voice. So what's required? You know, you might be doing a quick 15-second little internet like ad, the pre-roll ad for something really light and casual, or it could be that you're doing, you know, you could go from that all the way to, it might be, I did a job last year where I was the voice of one of the Australian soldiers that fought in World War One, and there was going to be a Gallipoli memorial, like a museum installation with spoken word pieces, and as people walked through, they would either have a headset or there'd be something playing where on each different photo. Like that's, you know, obviously very the gravitas, very serious, a lot of, you know, respect involved to, you want to get that right. If you're playing a real soldier, a real person, and providing voice to that person's legacy and their memory and what have you. So that's what I mean about each job is different. One, you could be doing a chocolate bar or a pizza and selling a product, and the other, it could be something where you are maybe you're doing an on hold voiceover where someone picks up the phone and it's for a I don't know, a car insurance or something where they might have just been in a car smash, and you have to be very respectful. You know, hi, we will be with you as soon as we can. We know that you might be stressed right now, that kind of thing. So I think in a strange way, it's not so much about the sound of your voice as it is about how much empathy you and tact you can have to assess quickly, immediately, what sort of tone is needed for any given script, you know, and that is a real that's a real practiced skill, I think. And yeah, it's very, there's so many different levels to voiceover to sort of explain. It's such a, it's a detailed and very unique job to try and do. And you know yourself when that mic, when that red light goes on, that you suddenly elevate into a different space where you're not really you anymore. So that's one other difference I'd point to with, say, the podcast. It's me, it's Leon, it's Dan, and we're doing, you know, we're trying to crack each other up and be silly and be entertaining and be funny. And then with Big Brother, I'm obviously playing a character. With a commercial or a corporate video, I'm almost the no-name man. I'm the omniscient voice that's sort of providing information to someone as calmly or as excitedly or as respectfully or as seriously or as fun as I possibly can, just depending on what's required. That was a real long answer to your question, but hope it's given you a bit of insight anyway.
It actually has. As much as I would love to stay and chat and get to know the man behind the myth and the legend, I want to say thank you so much for coming into Cat Space, joining me at this very short time. It's been a very interesting, very, you know, how could I say,
Informative,
informative,
would you say?
exciting,
If
thrilling.
a Big Brother might even say it was illuminative. Thank you,
well,
Kat.
well, thank you for joining me once again. I hope you join me once again on Cat Space pretty soon.
It's been my pleasure. And if I may take this opportunity, I've never done this before, but Big Brother, you have been evicted. You must now leave Cat Space. And I may see you again. That is all.